Hello everybody, this is ManuS and welcome back to the latest Legends of Runeterra spoiler review. We're finally catching up to be back on track with looking at Nocturne and friends in this review and then waiting for the probably next Targon spoilers to show up later this evening. Alright, so you know the drill. Before we do so, hit the subscribe button down below, turn on notification icon to not miss out on future content. It's just taking a couple seconds and really helps the channel out. And now let me briefly tell you about today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by NordVPN, one of the leading virtual private network providers out there. A virtual private network keeps your data secure and yourself anonymous while using the internet. NordVPN comes with super fast servers, allows you to unlock your favorite entertainment websites like Netflix. They provide a 30-day money-back guarantee. They also have an included cybersecurity suite, which acts as an ad blocker to boot. They don't lock any of your data, provide a 24/7 customer support, and you can use it on up to 6 simultaneous connections, so one account covers most or all of your electronic devices. And most importantly, they don't have any bandwidth limit, so you can use it non-stop without it getting throttled, which is particularly important for heavy users like us. It also won multiple awards and comes highly recommended by top technology experts. So if you're still surfing online without a VPN, now is the time to change that. Get NordVPN now, 70% off for a 3-year plan, including 1 month extra for free using the code ManuS or the personalized link in the description down below. And now on to today's content. So let's get started. First we have Nocturne. He's a 4-cost 5/3 Fearsome, and he has Nightfall. On Nightfall you grant an enemy vulnerable and give enemies -1/-0 this turn. So if you play him on turn 4 with Nightfall, he has quite a nice swing effect. He makes blocking pretty difficult for the opponent and also allows you to challenge the unit you care about the most, either to kill it or to get it out of the way with like a small attacker. To level him up, you've attacked with 5+ Nightfall allies. So I assume that means allies that have Nightfall and not allies that you triggered Nightfall for, if I had to guess. Although that is still a bit of a weird condition, since you would kind of expect Nightfall to not be sort of a static effect, given that it's kind of like a summon effect or like play effect, and wouldn't define a unit as a Nightfall unit. But they went their way. Bit of a weird design choice, honestly, but it makes cards like the 1-drop from the latest batch much more important and much more necessary for a deck like this to level up Nocturne, especially level up Nocturne fast. You might be able, depending on how things go with a high roll, to probably level up Nocturne the turn you play him. And yeah, other allies have Fearsome, and when you play a unit, give enemies -1 this round. So he also sort of cleaves the attack of opponents when you play other units, and of course he gets +1/+1. So yeah, all in all, Nocturne seems pretty solid. It's high attack Fearsome unit on 4, so we're really getting into like another like Fearsome aggressive mid-range strategy with this probably. We'll have to wait and see how well he plays and how the strategy comes together, but I kind of like the direction, and it's cool to try and see sort of a Fearsome mid-range type thing with Nightfall come together. Just not sure how good it's going to be from what we know so far, but there could certainly be potential. Nocturne's Unspeakable Horror, which is both Nocturne's champion card and also a card in general, drains for 1. It can drain players, unlike Vile Feast, so that's noteworthy here. And if you play it with Nightfall, you create a random Nightfall card in hand. So it gives you sort of more Nightfall cards, especially more Nightfall units to help level up Nocturne. And it's still sort of a 2-for-1 like Vile Feast. But instead of low impact tempo generation with a 1/1 body, you get a sort of higher impact but no tempo extra card in hand, so it's sort of like a conditional drain 1 draw a card, although it only draws from the pool of Nightfall cards, not from your deck. So yeah, this with Nightfall activated actually seems like a pretty strong card. Probably notably better than Valfeast, and the fact that it can also go face matters nicely. So this is all in all a really nice new addition to the toolbox of Shadow Isles decks, and in decks that can reliably trigger Nightfall, it will probably take the role of Valfeast. In decks where it can't, Valfeast is still a lot better, especially for more defensive decks. You don't care about hitting face, you also care about getting the early blocker in addition, while in a more proactive deck, this seems like a better Valfeast usually. Then we have Stalking Shadows, which is kind of an interesting card. It's a 2-cost burst spell. You pick a follower from the top 4 cards in your deck, draw it, and shuffle the rest into the deck, and then create an ephemeral copy in hand. So it both gives you card selection, so it lets you look at the top 4 cards, pick the best follower, and then get an additional ephemeral copy, which in the right context can be pretty powerful. So it's kind of like, once again, sort of a 2-cost draw 2. In a way, kind of like Pilfered Goods and that sort of stuff, although this can only get units, and it only gets 2 copies of the same unit, one of them being ephemeral. Also keep in mind you can technically whiff. I think if there's no follower in the top 4, the card does nothing, so there's a bit of a risk involved. You want to play this in unit heavy enough decks, but all in all this actually seems quite interesting and powerful. Like for example, the Nightfall 1-drop seems like a very decent ephemeral unit. For this, you can suddenly go like Stalking Shadows, get 1, get another 1, add 8 fearsome damage to the board for like 2 mana, or in total 4 mana, is a pretty nice deal, just to mention one of the many possibilities. So yeah, Stalking Shadows looks pretty solid. Will probably make it into a sort of more mid-rangey deck, even a proactive one with Nocturne potentially. It's also a 2-cost spell that also has burst, making it a pretty decent Nightfall enabler. Speaking of Nightfall enablers and burst, Shroud of Darkness costs 1, is burst, so potentially a very good Nightfall enabler. Also the next time you summon an ally this round, give it +1/+0 and spell shield this round. Makes it even clearer that this is meant to enable Nightfall. Spell shield is only this turn, so it's not that valuable. I think it's notably worse than Barrier this turn. And +1/+0 is not that good, so Shroud of Darkness seems kind of low impact and not that great at what it is doing, but maybe it in the end plays better than it looks. And might find a room as like a low number. I mean, I definitely underestimated the value of something like Warning Shot last time around, because in a vacuum it's a very bad card, but with some effects like turn 1 Butcher being so impactful, and Riptide Rex, or even Pilfered Goods and Black Market Merchant, in the end it often was worth the investment of the card to enable those, and maybe Shroud of Darkness will turn out to be the same, although the payoff of Fearsome seems lower, and there are other alternatives like Sapling Toss, for example, seems usually better to me than this, but there could be some situations to set this up. It's also worse the fact that this only works like preemptively, so you can only play it and play the unit. You can't like use it to give something spell shield or +1/+1. But then again, like a 1-cost give something spell shield this round would be super broken, so not surprised that it doesn't do that. And last but not least, we have Risen Mists. It's a 4-cost burst spell that summons a Mistrace. So we finally get a 3rd Mistrace card to make more Mistrace. Pretty cool artwork, by the way. But at a hefty cost. Like, even if you consider spell mana into this, which would probably make it like 3 mana, paying twice the mana for a Mistrace at burst speed is iffy. To be fair, burst speed can be pretty strong, especially for a better unit. Like, imagine this is a big Mistrace, you can sometimes just Risen Mists, open attack on an empty board, for example, or add a burst speed, medium-sized, scary attacker to your board and stuff like that. Certainly does some interesting things, but is a bit clunky, but could turn out like good enough. It seems a bit overcasted, but we don't yet have a threat of this quality at burst speed, so maybe it's worth the cost after all. Certainly an interesting tool to mess around with, and that makes Mist Race and Racecaller a lot better. Like now, for example, you can go like nothing turn 1, turn 2 Mist Race, turn 3 Risen Mists, and turn 4 Racecaller, and suddenly you have like 3, 4, 2 Fearsome Mist Race and the Racecaller on board, which is pretty nice, just as one of the more obvious lines. But yeah, all in all, Nocturne badge seems okay, not super flashy, but very solid, and probably a bit better than the Freljord badge, but not by a lot. And some of the cards are a bit hard to assess without playing them. Like Nocturne certainly seems very solid, but he could be better than he looks, and Shroud of Darkness could turn out better than it seems, for example. Risen Mists could be better than it looks, but I think Stalking Shadows, Unspeakable Horror, and to an extent Nocturne are roughly what they seem to be, although Nocturne I think could be a bit better even than he looks. He looks very solid, but maybe he's even great. I don't think he's going to be much worse than I think he is, but yeah, we'll see when it's time. Definitely nice to see Shadow Isles getting some new angles. Like we've basically seen a lot of the regions be redefined and getting new angles. I think Freljord is the one that was most in line with what it already did from the new cards, but even there we had some more defensive and go bigger, go more rampy, and sort of late game mid-range directions as opposed to what we had before. Although there was a clear direction for that already, but it's more emphasized to a point where it might become more viable. Alright, that catches us up to the latest spoilers. As usual, let me know in the comments what you think of the latest cards and my assessments, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. All further information, like my live stream, how to support the channel, coachings, sponsors and so on, check the description down below by clicking show more. And yeah, if you enjoy the content on your way out, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more, and yeah, share with your friends and so on and so forth. That's it again for this time. I'm your host ManuS, and I'll see you next time.